Hey, it's Les from the TV Dudes. This year, as part of our coverage of ATX Television Festival Season 8, I was lucky enough to chat with Into the Dark Culture Shock director and co-writer Gigi Saul Guerrero, as well as actors Martha Higareda, Richard Cabral, and Shawn Ashmore. Hope you enjoy. So this is Les from the TV Dudes, and I'm here with Richard Cabral and Shawn Ashmore.
Hey.
And of course, I just got to watch the screener for Into the Dark. I love anthologies. I'm a sucker for them anyway. And so I was pretty good. Oh, hey, I think everybody's here.
Oh, hey there.
Gigi.
What's up? Me too.
Hi, so nice to meet you.
This is Les. Yes, nice to meet you.
How are you, Liz?
Doing great.
Good. I was running down here with my shoes. I'm coming.
I really appreciate the time.
Of course, thank you.
I was just telling both the guys, I got to watch the screener last night and this morning, and I really enjoyed it. I'm so glad Mitchell got it over to me in time to see before the interview.
Great.
And I got to go to Fantastic Fest this past year, which is an Austin film festival. I don't think they call themselves a horror film festival.
No,
but they kind of are.
Genre.
Yeah, there's genre. Yeah,
well, we'll
it's
politely
a
call
fun
it genre.
fest. Yeah.
A lot of neck stabbings in a lot of the movies.
Right.
Like a running gag of it.
It can't be Fantastic Fest without that, though, right? And the beer.
Yes, and the beer. But they had a panel on women in horror. They don't do very many panels, and I thought it was great. They ran this list of like 50 women who had directed horror, and it was great because all of us walked into the panel thinking there's like 10. No, there were like tons, and they're just not really considered. And so I'm always interested in what draws you to horror, or why you find a particular freedom in your storytelling making horror, because I particularly like the kind of grindhouse style that the first section of the movie or the Into the Dark movie TV episode has, and then the sudden shift in tone.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to know your goals on making it and how the project got going.
Well, to begin the first part of your question, like why horror, why genre, and I always blame my mom for that because she never let me watch anything horror. I come from a super Catholic, super Mexican household, so very superstitious family. Everything is the devil, so for my mom and my grandma, they didn't want me watching anything scary. So instead of drawing me away from it, it was actually getting me closer and closer and more curious. And, to not make the story too long, when I saw my first horror film, it was just that reaction, that impact that I couldn't believe a movie could do to you, that a movie could follow you home. So Chucky was the first thing I saw. And I was like, oh my God, Chucky's in the room with me. But I couldn't understand why I was feeling he's in the room with me. And I was excited, and I kept opening and closing my closet, hoping he was going to appear, because my feelings were so strong. And so I didn't understand it was fear. Instead, I saw it as a thrill. So from now on, like any story I want to direct or tell or be part of, I want the audience to have something to feel when they walk out. And I think with Culture Shock, there's so much to talk about with the social commentary, and it became for the first time a very personal story for myself as a Mexican, as an immigrant living in Canada. I wanted the audience to really feel what these characters are feeling as they're crossing into a different country, but with a true culture shock it thrown in your face, and I think it's important to use genre as an escape to reality, and I always really appreciate that about genre. You can really manipulate the horrors of what the world is going through and make it your own, make it either fun, make it either really scary, make it grindhouse like you're saying. So Martita, she just walked in. How are you?
Good.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you guys. Hi.
Mark. I'm Les from the TV Dudes. Thank you so much for making time today.
Oh, no, my God.
Yeah, I find that too, that sometimes genre can be the sugar that makes the medicine go down a little bit. You can get a little more social commentary sometimes into horror, sci-fi, or something than people might sit down for and just This Is Us episode.
Good comparison.
Yes, yeah. No, it's true though. But I think genre does make it more palatable, and I think even with this story, you can push it a little farther. Obviously, the things that happen in culture shock are happening to a certain degree every day. Mm-hmm. I think people sort of tune out. It's almost too painful. It's too hard to really think about, and I think that's part of the problem. And I think with something like culture shock, you can frame it where it almost seems bigger than life or over the top, even though it's not, mm-hmm. and have people take another look at it. And I think also with genre in general, you can have people sit down and think that they're watching entertainment and really deal with a real life issue, things mm-hmm. we're dealing with. So I think that's the best thing about genre for me. And all genre that makes an impact and stuff that sticks with me are whether it's horror, sci-fi, whatever, any sort of entertainment that has a social commentary to it sticks with us, and I think that's what this episode or this movie, Culture Shock, does.
Yeah, I was really thrilled to see just how it didn't skirt around the social commentary of it. I mean, even after the credits at the end,
I can't wait for people to see what we did.
and I don't want to spoil. I thought,
these guys don't even know what's happening.
I'm like, wait a second, what is he talking about? What's after the credits?
Yeah, everyone dies. Everyone is Luke Skywalker's dad.
I thought, oh great, I'll get to watch the screener and we'll be able to. And then about halfway through, I was like, well, I've seen the screener, but I don't want to spoil this for anybody. Particularly, I loved the just almost like slam you into that tonal shift in the middle when your character wakes up,
Mm-hmm.
or goes to sleep.
We don't know.
Can you talk about decisions that were made to make sure that you separated those kind of parts of the movie to really drive home that change?
I'd have to say a lot of it started a lot with just the visceral side of things and just the vision itself with the cinematographer Byron, who's incredible. And for myself, I've actually never made anything that was that different. Mm-hmm. I actually had to study new films. Like I was suddenly watching like Wes Anderson movies. I don't watch that. Like I'm all about like gritty horror, like stuff like that. So for me, I was very excited to do something new, and it was something that I was really wanting to share. Like when I met these guys, the cast, like I was so excited talking about being like, and then you're gonna be in this other planet, and then it's gonna look like so different. But it's, the decision was just to always be contagious of your enthusiasm, because it was such an extraordinary idea. It was such a big idea to go about. Mm-hmm. I wanted everyone to really feel and trust that choice, because I still remember when I told the studio about it, they were like, "Oh, that's a big change, Gigi. I don't know about that." But with everybody's trust, it was really cool. It was really cool to see that, and also I think it's an exciting choice for the characters. Mm-hmm. The actors got to play two different people. Mm-hmm. Everybody that you see in the show got to play two different sides of themselves, and even someone like Richard. I never thought I would ever see him do something so different, and it's so exciting, like how they all brought something totally different to the table on both worlds mm-hmm. that we present in the film. It's so hard to talk about, not spoil.
No.
But yeah, it was.
Without
going
cool. into what happens in it, the cafeteria scene, it cracked me up and then dropped that. It's one of my favorite parts of horror, is that you could be laughing and then suddenly like, oh,
what happened? Yeah, that's exactly it.
Can you talk about any favorite parts of filming, or when you read the script, did you know what you were in for?
No, I think going into it, it's like you always get these stories, right? And it's sad to say that in the industry, it's kind of like repetitive, right? And I was like, all right, going on a border story, right? A border story. And so you don't want to go in there with like preconceiving, but we do, because we're running through these scripts time after time after time, and it's pretty much the same stories, right? So going into it, I was like, all right, here we go. And I start flipping through the pages, and then I'm in. I was like, okay, okay, this is something that I haven't read, and I was in. As soon as I started reading, I was in, and then after I finished, I was like, wow, like this is something great, you know, and how is it gonna look? I don't know, because reading it and how it looks is totally different, right? And but I mean, just reading it and reading the character arcs, right? We always want to see these character arcs that we've been talking about, and it was that. It was just going from 0 to 60 in seconds. And I was just I was grateful that I was even considered to be part of this, and yeah, if I mean from the beginning to the end, it was definitely a blessing.
Had you all seen any of Gigi's previous movies? Going in, did you kind of know a little bit what you were in for?
I hadn't, but I'd had a couple friends that had worked with Gigi over the years, so I sort of, and we're horror fans, so like I sort of told about that, and then I had the chance to sit down with Gigi after I'd read the script, and that's when I knew.
Yeah,
she was, because she had a whole binder. Remember this gigantic binder you had with images, with moments, and also, for me, it's really important, and kind of going to what Richard was saying, like, each character had a very specific arc, and that was on the page, but when I sat down with Gigi, and we were talking about the idea, talking about the concept, she was coming up with moments and beats and stuff that I hadn't thought about, and to have her that immediately in the moment, while we were just sitting there having a meeting, talk and come up with all these things, I was like, oh, this is a creative mind, and this is a person that knows this story inside and out, and again, that can help. I think every actor, hopefully, gets to work with other actors that pull things out of them, but also a director that has an idea. When I'm lost, when I'm stuck somewhere, I want a director, I want a filmmaker, a storyteller to help me get there. And when I read this character, I knew who he was in one part of the world, I wasn't sure who he was in another part of the world, and again, without giving too much away, that's what I think in that meeting, Gigi started to say some things that I was like, oh, I know where I can take this, and I know where she might help me take this. So that was kind of cool. So I hadn't seen her work before we had met, but as we started talking and as this whole thing came together, I realized like what an amazing storyteller she was, and how personal this story is too, which is important.
When I met with Gigi,
I thought it was gonna scare you away after you watched my shorts.
No, it was not gonna scare me away. I remember like two very specific moments when I met her. Well, I mean, the amazing conversation we had about the story and the script and everything that, you know, Shawn and Richard shared with you. She showed me all the imagery that you had in the room, you know, with all basically what you were basing on, you know, like the visuals of what the movie would look like in all this 3 different worlds in a way, you know, the Mexico world, the American world, the other world. I don't want to spoil it anyway.
Gotta watch it.
And it's like, and she was like, the way she was talking about it, and the passion that she was sharing, and I remember I walked out of the meeting. I called my agent and I said, Craig, that's his name. I said, Craig, I feel like I just met with like the female version of Guillermo del Toro. Like in the future, Gigi is gonna be. It's true. That's how I felt. I said, Gigi is like, it's gonna bloom, and like she's amazing. I gotta do this movie. I was like, I gotta do this movie. It was an incredible, you know, moment. And then I saw, you know, I'm trying to remember which. You sent me a couple of them. And Gigante, and the short, and again, and then I called my agent again. And I was like, I know what's happening. I know what I'm doing. We got to do this. And he was like, yes, let's do it. It was like for me. And then we were on set, and the first day we had to do all the waking ups. When my character had just given birth, and there's a bunch of things like scenes that happen in the same room. Back to back, although in the story they happen in different moments, and she had it so clear, you know. Now, not so much the reaction, because remember, this is a moment. So together we were crafting, you know, how the journey of my character would be. It was great. It was great.
That Wes Anderson aunt change is crazy. Yeah.
I learned a lot by watching new films.
And now, imagine that.
Imagine that. Who
There's
knew?
a Saturday Night Live skit where they make a horror movie out of the Midnight Coterie of Sinister Intruders, and they do this whole fake Wes Anderson horror movie, and it's
Oh, that's great.
the killer in the yard writing a polite note. Thank you all so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm a
Thank
sucker
you.
for anthologies, and so when I heard Hulu was going to do a running, basically holidays anthology, I was like, oh, I'm here for this. Like, there's one a month. I love this. I want to know what the Arbor Day horror movie is. Like, let's run through all the holidays.
You got to get a little creative with holidays. Yeah.
There's some months that I'm like, very
The Arbor Day, hell yeah. I'm up for that episode.
So yeah, for them to do this on the 4th of July when it's not going to be
Perfect, isn't it? Oof.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Permanent Record Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, please go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes, and help us out on iTunes by giving us a 5-star rating and writing a review. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and permanentrcrd.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.